Welcome back to the Funding Blueprint, the podcast where we unpack what it really takes to build, fund, and scale a startup today. I'm your host, Cece Nahaman, and on today's episode, we're joined by someone who spent the last several years helping startups sharpen their story, scale their impact, and secure the funding they need to grow, Molly Dill. Molly is the managing director of Generator Wisconsin, where she leads the investment accelerators in both Milwaukee and Madison. She's reviewed thousands of startups from around the world and helps guide each cohort through an intensive 12-week mentorship program that positions founders to grow fast and fund even faster. Before that, she led G-Beta Milwaukee and spent nearly a decade as a journalist, most recently as managing editor of Biz Times Milwaukee, covering everything from early-stage startups to healthcare to venture capital. In today's conversation, we're diving into the big shifts shaping the startup landscape right now, from the role of AI in software as a service and the potential resurgence of CPG innovation to where true originality is showing up in the ecosystem. We'll also get Molly's take on what separates successful founders from the rest, what makes a pitch truly land, and how accelerators can supercharge your company's growth if you know how to use them. If you're a founder thinking about joining an accelerator, refining your pitch, or just trying to get clearer on your next strategic move, this episode's for you. Let's get into it. Molly, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, we're so excited to have you. So let's just jump right into it. Let's start with landscape. You've been tracking innovation across verticals for years. With AI dominating the conversation right now, do you think software as a service as we've known it is being eclipsed?
So this is from my perspective as someone who reviews thousands of startup applications for our accelerator programs each year. I really do see a market shift in the SaaS space where a couple of years ago, every application with a software play included like ML and NLP, and now every software play includes AI. It's become an expected part of the platform for SaaS startups, and it's making it harder for them to defend and differentiate themselves in a crowded landscape of software platforms. So AI kind of feels like it's eating software a little bit.
Yeah.
You can use it to even develop the platforms themselves much faster, and you don't need that coding skill set per se, where a few years ago, we were seeing a lot of founders get stuck because they were non-technical and couldn't build it themselves. That's not really a problem anymore.
Yeah.
So some of the most original innovation we're seeing and focusing on here at Generator is coming from lab benches at universities, actually. So we're tapping into the innovative research that can be sometimes hidden away at academic research institutions and offering to help those inventors with the commercialization process. And so there's some really niche and important work being done around things like cancer treatment, medical imaging, accessibility devices, and more being done just in Wisconsin that I really enjoyed digging in and learning about. And while VC investments have trended away from the CPG space in recent years, I do think the pendulum is swinging back in that direction as software becomes less differentiated.
Definitely. There's a sense that investor interest may be swinging back towards CPG, like you just mentioned, and other real economy startups. So what signals are you seeing in the market, and what kinds of CPG or physical product companies feel compelling to you right now?
Yeah, so actually, Generator Wisconsin has had some of its greatest successes in the CPG space, which is partially because Wisconsin has a deep manufacturing history here in the Rust Belt. There's a lot of manufacturing resources and investor confidence in the space locally. So for example, our most successful exit was Pretty Litter, which is a cat litter that changes colors when your cat is sick. It does seem like it's gotten slightly less arduous for our CPG companies to get investor meetings and raise funding in the past year or so. Our program specifically in Wisconsin seems to really like beverage companies. So I'm really proud to see the growth of one of our Wisconsin Accelerator alumni companies, Wild Wonder, out in the marketplace. It's a prebiotic and probiotic sparkling beverage.
That's great. So you've obviously worked with so many early stage founders, both through Generator and from G-Beta. From your perspective, what are some of the key characteristics that set the successful ones apart, especially in terms of how they lead and how they pitch and how they grow?
Yeah, so I think some of the things that we're looking at in addition to the standard, like, is it a highly unique, highly scalable product? Is it a large enough market size to be venture backable? Is the team well-rounded and experts in the space? And most importantly, what kind of traction do they have? So do they have revenue, and how much is it growing every month? Or do they have some proxy for future revenue, and how much is that growing every month? Those are like the four main areas we're looking at. But in addition to that, there's these like intangibles or founder characteristics that I think I see those characteristics and those personality traits in founders that have gone on to great success over the past 6 years of coaching and mentoring startups in our accelerator programs. And that includes openness to feedback, knowing your numbers backward and forward for the business, formidability. So this is a Paul Graham tenet, is be formidable as a founder and really like help me see your vision and show your confidence in your decisions. And then just a constant focus on sales. So just this morning, I introduced one of our founders who's coming into the next program this summer. I introduced him to someone for something, like it was actually like for a background check, unrelated to the program. Like it was unrelated to his company. And he's like, "Ooh, I could sell to them." So just always thinking about sales, and openness to feedback is easier said than done, but it's really helpful coming into a program like this if you're able to take in feedback and then make decisions based on that confidently as the CEO leading the business.
Yeah. So I know in the intro we mentioned your 12-week mentorship program that helps position these founders to grow and fund fast. So if you don't mind kind of breaking down, what are some of those checklist items in your 12-week program, and what are some of the things that you're helping founders, learn and grow from and continue to grow?
Yeah, so during the program, a lot of what we're doing is making connections. So I think of myself as like the head cheerleader and accountability coach and connector for the startups.
Love that.
So during an accelerator program, we're connecting them to at least 50 mentors for one-on-one coaching and mentorship. So those are folks who are experts in HR, marketing, alumni of our program who have been successful. We also sit down with them in the first week and say, like, who would be your ideal customer profile, and who do I know that I could introduce you to that would be a potential customer? So we're trying to help them as much as possible with sales and marketing efforts that way. We're also just doing the work with them. We're sitting down next to them and doing cold outreach as well and helping them pull lists and craft those messages. And then we also introduce them to at least 50 investors for one-on-one pitch sessions who are a fit for their business, or we think are a fit, that have a thesis that matches that specific business. And the goal there is really to help them raise a larger round of funding coming out of the program. So the founders that are successful in an accelerator take advantage of every introduction, and they sort of follow the thread with that person to use that network effect to meet more people and get more help or turn them into a customer. And getting those warm introductions can open more investor doors than you would be able to on your own. And then I think an accelerator program really forces you to take a step back and work on the business as opposed to just in the business. So you're doing strategic planning, goal setting, and accountability. And really, we're jumping in with you as sort of a fractional help to push the business forward faster than you might have planned on.
Yeah, and I love that, helping founders work on the business instead of just in it. I love that phrase. So what are some more strategic blind spots that you help founders uncover? If you can dive into that a little bit and explain that a little. How do accelerators help break that just keep grinding cycle?
Yeah, I think as a founder, it can be hard to show your baby to someone and for them to tell you it's ugly, I guess is the phrase, right? So a lot of times founders are more comfortable sort of tinkering with the product rather than putting it out there and getting feedback or talking to people who could be potential customers and seeing what they think of it. And so a big part of what we do is try to push them to put it out there sooner than they think that it's ready to be seen by other people.
Yeah.
So getting perspective from people who are their potential customers, who are in the industry and can give them feedback from that perspective, and just generally getting different perspectives is good, is the biggest thing that we're able to help them understand. So as opposed to just grinding and using only your ideas on how to grow the business, opening it up to other people and getting feedback and different perspectives will help you maybe even create like a new revenue stream or a new product that you could add on, or maybe your product isn't quite hitting the mark or solving the problem for your potential customer, but you wouldn't know that until you go out there and talk to people about it. Yeah. So I think all of those can be really helpful in improving the business from every direction.
Definitely. Circling back a little bit here to pitching, it's one of the most make or break moments for founders. So what makes a pitch actually land with you? And if you don't mind walking us through a little bit of a framework or an effective founder story or investor narrative that you can share.
Yeah, so before I, spent the last 6 years working directly with startups and coaching them and mentoring them through the accelerator program, I was a journalist for 9 years before that. So I'm really passionate about helping them communicate effectively with all their stakeholders, whether that's a customer, a mentor, an investor, and really quickly helping someone understand what it is you do. Storytelling can be a really effective part of that. The easiest way to do storytelling is in the problem and solution statements. So tell me a story, help me understand, help me see it through your user's eyes. Whatever you can do to catch my attention and help me understand, like, this is a big problem, and I have the perfect solution for it. And it, generator, we call it twist the knife. So in the problem statement, as you're telling the story about the problem, really make me uncomfortable and kind of squeamish about why this is such a big problem and why I should care about it before you tell me about the solution, and sort of give me that relief.
Yeah.
Another thing that we really emphasize is keep it simple. Even if you have a highly technical product, there is a simple and effective and clear way that you can communicate in basic terms to any layman what you do. So you can de-jargon it, de-technical it, and it's going to be a lot easier for investors to feel excited about it if they can understand it. So if they're sitting there being confused by your pitch the whole time, it's not effective. And then another big thing we focus on is catching the investor's attention with your traction right away. So tell me basically what your company does, and then hit the traction as many times as you can in your pitch, and really emphasize that, because that's the biggest thing that any investor is going to care about.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of founders obsess over their product in the pitches and like the technicality, like you've mentioned, but at times that can definitely backfire. So my next question is, why is it also important, almost more important, to highlight team and market insight rather than get stuck in a product demo? And how can founders strike the right balance?
Yeah, so I think it is like, it's that comfort thing I was talking about before. It is really easy to get stuck on telling me about the product and everything the product can do and all the features, because you've spent so much time building it, right? And it's like the biggest thing to you, it's your baby. I have seen a number of founders spend too much time on the product and too much time on the demo. I don't think I've ever seen a demo where I was like, that was too short. As much as I hate to say, it's like, yes, I want to see all these great features, but I also need to know kind of the overarching information about the startup and why it's investable and why I should be excited about it in addition to that product. So just making sure you have time for the other elements of the business in addition to the product is helpful. Like, for example, sometimes people skip the team slide, and I'm always surprised by that, because in early stages, you're really investing in the people that are running the business and trusting them to grow it to where you expect it will go. And if you can't tell me about the team backgrounds in some depth, it's hard for me to understand why you're like the domain expert, or you're the person who knows more about this than anyone else that should definitely be leading this business.
Definitely. I guess my next question would be, what's your thoughts on how long a pitch should be? Should it be short and sweet, a little bit more detailed? What's that perfect happy number?
Our general guidance is 5 minutes. So if you can hit team, product, traction, market opportunity, and anything else you want to cover that really sets you apart in that amount of time, then I think you've been successful. If you can leave me wanting more, right? Just tell me the the high level, and then I can ask about the areas I want to dig in on more. I think a 5-minute pitch is great for that because it leaves the rest of the time for that discussion.
Yeah, that's great. I know you kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but for someone considering joining an accelerator, what's the best advice you could give them on how they can get the most out of it?
Yeah, so I think, aside from what I mentioned earlier, so I think, accelerators are competitive. We had 1,200 applications for the 6 spots in our summer program in Wisconsin. And so the things that set people apart come down to, like, is this really unique? Like, no one else in our applicant pool is doing something like this. That gets me excited. Help me understand how you differentiate and what your moat is and why you're the one that's going to win. And then I mentioned, like, openness to feedback. I can't say that enough. And then I think doing whatever you can to be able to fully, like, commit and focus on the program during the program. I know you can't just, like, pause your life, but it's intense. So it's like, if you can really give us your full attention, then you tend to get the most out of the program. And then even if you think a meeting might, like, if I'm introducing you to someone and you're like, why am I getting introduced to this person? This doesn't seem like it's helpful to me immediately. Trust the process. And in every meeting, try to see how, like, if someone says, I'm not going to invest, what can you get out of the meeting? Like, could they become a customer? Do they know someone else who could invest? Like, trying to think about, like, what can I get out of this meeting, or how can this help me maybe in the future, a few steps down the road?
Yeah, definitely. Do you mind sharing a successful founder story that you've seen through your accelerator business and through that 12-week program?
Yeah. So one of our companies that came out of the Generator Madison program last year, Technova, is a software platform that connects with a business's existing security cameras, for example. And it uses AI to help give insights to them about, like, their security processes, or, like, helps them make decisions going forward so they can be proactive in their security around the premises. And with the help of Technova, they don't have to replace their hardware anymore. They don't have to replace those security cameras. It upgrades them with the use of this software. So they worked really hard during the program trying to find the right market for their software platform, essentially. Like, they'd had a few customers in different spaces, everywhere from, like, agriculture to event venues, but they hadn't quite figured out that product market fit, and that's what we spent a lot of time working on. And I think those founders really demonstrated that they were formidable, because even though we recommended that they try meeting these people here in Wisconsin, and, like, oh, what about this person that we introduced you to? They were open to those introductions, which was great, but they also felt very strongly they needed to go to a security conference out west for, like, a week and a half in the middle of the program. And we were like, okay, we were kind of trying to work on some stuff here, but, like, we'll see you when you get back. But they were, like, very insistent, like, we got to go out to this conference. They came back with 70 leads.
Wow.
And they worked their way through those and figured out what their market fit was, together with those other introductions we had made. But I think it was good that they didn't just listen to what we said, right? They also had their own strong perspective that they brought to leading that startup, and they were taking the perspective of other mentors that they were talking to, and then making the decision based on, like, where the majority of feedback was leading them. So it can feel like whiplash if you're taking everyone's advice.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to say, like, I'm the CEO, based on what everyone's told me, this is my decision, and I'm going to do this thing. So I think they were successful. They have been successful as a result of that. They raised their round pretty quickly after the program, and they've been continuing to grow. So it's been really fun to watch.
That's awesome. And I'm sure just one story out of thousands, as we know you've put in so much work into, accelerating over the past however many years. You've been doing great, and we love to hear that success story. So thank you for sharing that with us. But unfortunately, that is a wrap on today's episode of the Funding Blueprint. A huge thank you to you, Molly, for joining us and sharing such sharp and strategic insights. from the evolving role of AI and software as a service, and where innovation is heading next, to what truly makes a founder stand out in an accelerator setting, Molly brought so much clarity and experience to the table. We broke down what makes a pitch truly land, how to use storytelling to your advantage, and the overlooked value of working on your business and not just in it. And of course, we dove into the power of accelerators like Generator and the real doors that they open for early stage startups. So if you're a founder looking to grow smarter and faster, check out the incredible work Molly is doing at Generator, especially if you're ready to connect with mentors, investors, and opportunities that can definitely move the needle. And if this episode gave you clarity or inspiration, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone building their own blueprint. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much again, Molly, for joining us today. And we'll see you next time on the Funding Blueprint.
Thanks for having me.